Hi guys, this is Dormouse03. This is a guide to Death March difficulty on The Witcher 3. For the purposes of this guide, I'm not going to be showing you every single thing I do, but I will be walking you through the main quests, and I'll be showing you where to get some diagrams for some good equipment, how to make that equipment, and a good build for your character that I think will work for pretty much anyone on this difficulty. So I've skipped a bunch of tutorial stuff at the very beginning, and this is your first real section of the game where you have to fight some things, and it's these ghouls. And now they can pretty much tear you up. One thing that you want to note, if you didn't notice when you played through the game before, or if you're starting the game on this difficulty, when you dodge, unless you dodge out of the radius of something's attack, it will still damage you unless you have all 5 levels of a perk that make that not happen. So we'll be getting that perk, but for right now, when you dodge, you want to try to roll away from the enemies and not kind of through them, because you don't really get iframes in your dodge. So just be aware of that. And right here at the beginning are some of the most difficult parts of this game, because you don't have anything leveled up, you don't have any abilities really, and so if you can get through this first section, you can probably get through the rest of the game, because we're going to be really speccing our character well, and we're going to be getting some good equipment as we go through. So you just kind of want to dodge around those guys, use Quinn to absorb some hits, and that is pretty much how you take out those guys there at the beginning. And then we're going to be venturing on into town and doing some other exposition things that I'm going to cut out here. And so once you get out of the tavern, you're going to have to fight these group of dudes. And a tip for you guys, when you have Axie as one of the conversation options, you want to try to use that as much as possible, because that's going to give you experience points when you do that, and it also avoids fighting one of these guys. You'll only have 2 that you have to fist fight. So the same strategy will work on these guys regardless of what level they are or how many of them there are. So you want to try to divide them up, and you want to counter them. And generally you can counter them and get in 1 attack, and then you want to stop attacking and go back into your guard stance. Otherwise you're going to risk getting hit by either the guy who you hit or the other one. So when you're only fighting one guy, you can get in a couple more punches, but when you're fighting 2 or more, you only want to go for 1 punch, and you want to try to divide them up as much as possible. You'll see that I didn't follow my own strategy there, and that's because they got separated enough that I was willing to risk hitting the first guy a couple of times, and then after I had dealt with him, I was able to get the second guy. But if they don't get separated that much for you, then you can definitely follow the 1 punch rule. So here in White Orchard, one of the first things that you want to do is run around and loot everything from inside these houses and around this town. This is because you want to try to get items that you will be using for upgrading things, and you also want to get some of the strong alcohol that will be used to replenish your supplies when you actually get some potions and things that you're going to be replenishing. And the strong alcohols are the Dwarven Spirit, the Alcoest, Redanian Rye, I think. There are several of them, but they'll show up in your alchemy section in your inventory and not in the consumables section. So that's how you know which ones are which. And you want to get as many of those as possible, because those are the things that are going to be really, really important once we get our potions and start using our potions. Because in this difficulty, one of the main differences is when you meditate, you do not replenish your health like you did in the other difficulties. And so in order to kind of counter that, instead of having to consume a bunch of food items, which can be kind of item expensive, I guess, if you want to call it that, because it takes a lot of them to replenish any significant amount of health, especially once you gain levels and get health. So instead of using your consumables, what you're going to want to do here in the beginning is concentrate on getting the ingredients and things that you need to make the swallow potion, and then we're going to be using the swallow potion to replenish our health, and then when we meditate we'll replenish our potions. And so that's kind of the strategy that I'm going to be using, so that I'm not just either sitting and waiting in between areas or worrying about being perfect and never getting hit and that kind of thing, because I feel like that's a little unreasonable, especially here at the beginning when you just aren't very stacked to be able to do that. So we're going to be looting all these houses in the hopes of finding some strong alcohol, and in the hopes of finding things that we'll be using to craft and stuff that we can sell.
Show me what you got.
You're also going to have a bunch of side quests in this area, including one with this blacksmith guy, and then after you do his quest, you can purchase items from him. He sells a bunch of diagrams and things, which you don't really need, and I'm not going to be purchasing, but he also sells some items that you might use for crafting, so the ingots, the wire, just and various dusts and things like that that you will be using for making armor. And he's also the guy that you're going to go to craft armor in this area. And so you saw that I bought a couple of pieces of wire from him, and that is because at this point, and I skipped a lot of things in between looting the town and right now, but I got all of the pieces that I need to craft this Witcher's leather jacket. And so you needed a couple of leather scraps, you needed one cured leather, and you needed 2 pieces of wire, and your original Witcher chest piece. So you want to make sure that you don't sell that. That way you can grab a couple of those pieces of leather and pieces of wire. I wasn't lucky enough to find the pieces of wire, so I just went ahead and bought them. And that way, that's the best armor piece that you'll get throughout this first section here in White Orchard. And so I'm showing you this main quest now. I did a couple of the lower level side quests in between that beginning section and this, but this is the first part of the main quest that we'll be doing. And so you have to follow this hunter guy, and then there are going to be some dogs, and the steel sword works for the dogs. And again, you want to use your Quinn sign, and you want to try to dodge when you don't have Quinn on. You want to try to dodge away from things, keep up your guard as much as possible, and wait for your Quinn sign to come back on and put it back on. Because these enemies here at the beginning, do not be deceived by their low level. They can and will kill you very, very quickly. In easier difficulties, this guy who is hanging out with you right now did a lot of damage on these dogs, but he doesn't really seem to do a lot of damage on them on this difficulty. Either that, or I just got unlucky and they all focused on me. But in any case, be prepared to have to take all of those dogs out yourself. And then you will be able to progress this story, and you will be able to go and inspect the site of the Griffin And all of that is exactly like it was in earlier difficulties. It's not going to be anything tough, no more enemies on the way between here and there, and it's just some things to investigate. So we're gonna skip through that and go on to the next thing. Okay, so I'm showing you on the map here now where we're gonna go to grab the diagram for a very, very important sword. It's here outside this, I think it's a church? Some sort of building. But there's a place of power here, and there's going to be this wraith. And you need to damage this wraith a little bit, and they can be quite irritating because they teleport around behind you. Just whenever you see it go away, what you want to do is just kind of continue to dodge around, and hopefully that will avoid you will avoid getting hit by the wraith when it teleports back in. But you want to make sure you save before you do anything in this game. That is another very, very important thing. Save, save, save all the time before you fight anything, because it can go from awesome to bad news in no time at all. So you'll see that I'm picking up some celandine. That's important. We're going to need that, and here is a really, really good place to find it. You're going to need 5 of those in order to create a potion that we will need for the swallow potion. And so now, after I'm done looting the flowers, I'm going to go down into this underground area here, and you saw how many things of water I drank just then, just to get my health up just a little bit. That's why we're going to really prioritize making and using swallow. So you saw it teleported. Now I'm going to roll around, try to avoid its swings, use your Quinn sign, and take down that wraith. And so once you kill the wraith that's down here, you will be able to loot all the stuff that's down here. There's, you know, a couple of random mushrooms and things, but the really important stuff is going to be that Gildorf sword is pretty good. But the thing that we came down here for is on a body in the corner. And as soon as we get done picking mushrooms, we're going to go get it. Here it is. And it's your diagram for your serpentine silver sword. And so that is very, very important. That is the best starting sword in this game, and you want to try to get it as early as you can, and you definitely want to try to get it before you fight the Royal Griffin. So pick that up, and it unlocks the quest to find the other Viper sword, your Viper steel sword, which is also really important, and we are going to go get that as well. So if you follow your quest marker over here to where it shows the marker for the steel sword diagram, don't do this. You can get up there if you jump on that rock, but I had aggroed the guy with the crossbow, and so it just wasn't happening. You can jump up there off of that rock, but it just wasn't going to happen for me. So the actual way that you get up there is there's a column that's kind of fallen down around here, and you can jump up onto that or walk up onto that and then do a little bit of platforming and get up to where these bandit guys are. And there are 4 of these guys, I believe, and so they can be pretty dangerous, but we're going to take them out. It helps if you have your sword out. Sometimes Geralt just doesn't want to equip his sword for whatever reason. I don't know why that is, but be aware that that happens, and make sure that you have your sword out. So put on Quinn and try to take this guy out first, because he will be irritating with his crossbows. You don't want to put your sword away. You want to keep your sword out. I managed to get in a little safety save in there. Here's another guy, he's dead. Here's the guy with the big axe, and he is probably the most dangerous guy in this area. You want to try to dodge around behind him and then get some hits on him. You see the radius of that axe and how much damage it does. That's no good. And now the other guy is behind me. And so I'm trying to figure out where the second guy is. There he is. You see him. He's shooting crossbow bolts at me, which is no good. And so I want to try to take him out or separate them. Because if you're ever taking on these guys and someone's shooting you with the stupid crossbow bolts or arrows, it looks like he has a regular bow and arrow actually, it gets very irritating because it'll keep taking your Quinn shield away and they can hurt you quite a bit. So now that he's dead, it's just this guy, and we can dodge around behind him and take him out. And that's those guys down. And then you can feel free to loot the area. And inside this building over here on the left is going to be the diagram for the serpentine steel sword, which is important. It's not as important as the silver sword right now because we're going to be fighting more monsters than we are humans. But it's still pretty important. You want to have that before you go into the next area. At least the diagram. You don't necessarily have to have that sword created, but you want to have the diagram for it so that you can create it pretty soon once you are moving into the area after White Orchard. So there it is, your Viper or your serpentine steel sword. And we're going to be working on getting the materials to be able to make those. They need leather and they need iron and silver respectively for the iron and or for the steel and silver swords. And they both need a 1 emerald dust. And so the emerald dust is very expensive. It's 500 and something crowns, and so you're gonna have a pretty good amount of money if you're going around here and looting things and selling stuff and that kind of thing. But we want to try to get one of the emerald dust from the Devil in the Well quest, which I'll be showing you how to do. And then the other one you might get randomly, but I just went ahead and bought it so that I could make my steel sword. But that, if you are able to get an emerald dust from the Devil in the Well quest, you will only have to buy one, which will save you a little bit of gold here at the beginning. So the next thing that I'm going to show you here is where to get a drowner brain. So in addition to working on our swords, we're also working on getting some potions, the most important of which is Swallow. And for that you need a drowner brain. And drowners are really irritating enemies. But if you come to this spot on the map, there's always just the one that's going to be sitting right here. And so we're going to focus on him and try to take him out as quickly as we can before he gets the chance to murder us. And so usually they will drop a brain, and he did. But if they don't, you can make a save there, or if he doesn't, you can either make a save there and kill him again until he drops one, or you can move up just a little ways along that river and there will be some more of them that you can kill. And so here is Swallow. You need a Dwarven Spirit, you need 5 Celandine, and you need a Drowner Brain. And this is incredibly, incredibly important. You want to go ahead and equip it right away. That restores a good chunk of your health for each of those 3. And then when you meditate, it will replenish them by using one of those strong alcohols that you have in your alchemy section of your inventory. So very, very important. I also had the items to make this necrophage oil. You needed some blowball, and you also needed some dog tallow, which you should have gotten off of those dogs in the main quest. And the blowball is a little yellow flower that's everywhere, literally. You can also try to make the specter oil if you want to make the Devil in the Well quest a little bit easier. You'll need a bear fat, and you will need some of the little white flower there, which both of those things you can purchase from the herbalist lady that's kind of in the middle of the map here. But not necessary. I didn't use it, but you can. So here is the herbalist. I just wanted to show her to you guys really quickly and show you her inventory, that if you can't find the materials that you need for making your potions and your oils and things, she will probably sell those. And so she definitely sells celandine, and she definitely sells the little white flowers, and you know, just a lot of things. So if you need something and you don't have it, you can buy that from her. I bought some stuff to be able to make some of these bombs a little later on, the grape shot bombs, and that was so that I could do some of the monster nests a little bit later on. Alright, so we're at the end of this Devil by the Well contract. You didn't really need to do anything differently for this one up until this point, but I would recommend making a save there after you get done with the swim through the well, because what you're going to want to do is kill this woman until you get some emerald dust to drop from her. I had to do it twice, but it's not that difficult of a fight. You just want to make sure you use your Erden and hit her when she's in it. And don't try to hit her when she's not in it, because she will just hurt you. And then once you hurt her enough, she will spawn 3 little minions that will each die in 1 hit. You want to kill them as quickly as possible, because I believe they give her health back. And so you want to try to kill them as quickly as you can, and then throw down Erden and kill her. And then if you get lucky, she will drop an emerald dust for you. And like I said, I had to reload this and kill her again in order to get this to drop, but it's pretty important. So there you go. My advice on that, because you're going to need that to build one of your Viper swords. I would use it definitely for the silver one. And that way, if you don't have the money to be able to buy the emerald dust, you can get it. And so we're going to go back to the Nilfgaard camp and talk to the blacksmith here. And he is going to be able to build this sword for us. And so it takes 2 silver ingots, it takes 1 emerald dust, it takes venom extract, and some leather straps. And so most of these things you will get just by collecting stuff. If you need I was showing you the steel sword as well, although I'm not making that right now. Definitely make the silver one first. If you need silver ingots, you have a crafting recipe for silver ingots, and if you have some of that pure silver or silver nuggets, you can build the silver ingots from that. You can also break down certain items and get some silver ingots. So that is where you get those from. And you'll see he sells emerald dust if you need it, but I would recommend definitely trying to get it from that Devil in the Well quest. And so now we have our serpentine silver sword, which is awesome. So now we're back at the herbalist's hut. I came back here to buy some ingredients to make the grape shot bombs so that I could go and do the monster nests, because you're going to need bombs in order to do that. And so you go, and if you're lucky you'll have found these ingredients, but I wasn't. And you really need to do as much of the stuff around here as you can early on, because you need to level up and get some abilities. And so one way to do that is to do all of the random little stuff around. Now you don't have to do all of it, but the things that will give you the most XP are the monster nests and the random side quests that you'll find in the area. Most of the random side quests are very easy to do. A lot of them don't even involve combat. So, for example, the one with the pan doesn't involve any combat. The one with the blacksmith doesn't involve any combat. So, I would definitely recommend doing that. There's our grape shot bombs. And we're going to go take down a monster nest. So this is an example of a monster nest. With these ghouls, again, they can be very, very dangerous. There are 5 of them here, and they can kill you so fast. So you want to try to divide and conquer these guys. Try to get around behind them if you can, because you'll do more damage from behind. And also they can't really hit you if they're facing behind. You'll see how much that swallow restores, which is incredible. And again, we're just using and abusing our Quinn shield and trying to divide up these ghouls so that we're not taking them all on at once. And now that we have our silver sword, you do quite a bit of damage. So you shouldn't have a problem taking out all these monster nests once you get that sword. So once you kill all of the ghouls in the area, you can just walk up to the nest and hit your A button to drop a bomb in there. If you don't have any bombs left, you'll need to meditate and replenish your supply like I just did. And then you kind of drop it in there, back away so you don't get hurt, and you'll get some XP from that. Sometimes there will be an extra ghoul that jumps out of the nest, and if you kill that one, it'll give you even more XP, so just be aware of that. Once you've done everything in this area that you want to do, you can go and talk to Vesemir. And I'm showing you here just this list of things that I had completed before I went and did the Griffin contract. You want to do as many side quests as you can. You definitely want to get your serpentine silver sword, and you want to do all of these places of power. So I'm showing you where they are on the map here. There are 6 of them, and you want to make sure that you do them all. There are also several monster nests, and those, like I said, give you a pretty good amount of XP, and so you want to try to do those as well. But definitely get those places of power and start leveling up. This is the sword that I had. And again, you want to also make your Witcher's leather jacket, because that'll be the best chest piece that you can get. You want to make sure that you put on your swallow and make that potion. And so there was your Thunderbolt potion, and now you don't actually have to make this. It automatically gives it to you. And so you don't need to worry about making this one. You'll upgrade it later. But once you talk to Vesemir, it will just go ahead and give you this potion, which is very effective. So you definitely want to make sure that you put that on as well before you go fight this Griffin. So let's talk for a second about the character build that I'm using right here. I am focusing on leveling up my fast attacks and leveling up Quinn. So I had the first three, the first Quinn ability. I had 3 points into that, and I had several points into my fast attacks as well. And so those are the things that you want to make sure that you do before you get to this point. I also put a couple of points into Axie because I want to be able to use that in dialogue options, and I want to be able to use that as soon as possible. I don't want to miss out on any experience because I didn't have that in. So I did put a couple of points into that as well. But the most important things are you want to level up your Quinn, and you want to level up your fast attacks for the build that I am going to be using here. And I think at this point we are ready to fight the Griffin. So my strategy for the Griffin involves using Quinn. You want to make sure that you have that on, and then you want to put on Thunderbolt. And you can either wait for it to land and kind of dodge out of its way here, or you can use your crossbow and shoot it down, which is that second thing is what I would recommend, because that will help it go faster and you won't have to dodge it as much while it's in the air. But you see how much damage that Thunderbolt plus the Silver Sword is doing to this Griffin? It's incredible. So you definitely want to have that, and you definitely want to put Quinn on and try to roll around behind the Griffin, dodge attacks as best you can, and when it flies up into the air you can shoot it down with the crossbow. But at this point he's gone down to the amount of health that makes him fly off to the next little area, and you just want to chase him there. Again, make certain that you have Quinn on at all times, because if he hits you, and you'll see I do get hit during the fight, he does hurt me a little bit because I get anxious to finish him off here toward the end. But if you get hit by him, it's not super fun. So you want to aim with the crossbow, and if you hit him really anywhere on his body, but I kind of aimed for the legs there. Yep, there's the damage. It's a lot. And so we put Quinn on, we put on Thunderbolts, and we try to do some work on him, try to roll around behind him. When he flies up in the air, sometimes he'll do that little ground pound thingy. But here we go. Shoot him, he falls. Super effective way of getting these flying enemies out of the sky where they're irritating. And the cool thing about this Serpentine sword as well is that it poisons things, so you have a chance to poison your enemies, and as many times as you'll be hitting this Griffin, you probably will get some poison damage on him. Whenever your Thunderbolt goes away, be sure to put it back on. You do get a couple of them. because you do so much more damage with that on. Even with this nice sword, it doesn't do nearly as much damage without that Thunderbolt potion. So there you go. That is the Griffin dead. And that's really the major fight of this first part. That's what we've been kind of collecting stuff and building up for this whole time. And so you want to take the contract back to the Nilfgaard camp. And what I did was, in this area before I went back to meet Vesemir at the bar, I went ahead and bought some emerald dust from the blacksmith here and created my serpentine steel sword as well. I had found some iron ingots along the way, and so I didn't have to buy those, but I would if I had to, because I wanted to create this sword before I went on into the next area. And like I said, you don't necessarily have to make this right away, but you'll be fighting enough human type enemies and dog and wolf type enemies soon enough, and so you might as well go ahead and make it. And you're gonna be having so much money. This is a big difference between Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. In Witcher 2, you really had to scrounge and scrounge and scrounge to be able to get enough money to be able to make your nice armor. But in this game, you really don't have to do that. You end up with so much money, it's not even funny. And so spending money in order to get the better items earlier is, I think, definitely a good idea. And so when you're ready to leave this area and move on, you will meet Vesemir back at the bar, and that will trigger this scene where you go into this bar fight here. It's kind of hard to see because there's a lot of stuff hanging around on the walls. But if you just kind of dodge around a bit, your sword will take care of the majority of these guys, and it does not take long to go into the next cutscene, which will take you on into the next area. So I will see you there, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope that was helpful. And I will see you in Novigrad.